Okay, hey everyone, this is Catherine again. This is our fourth week doing the ICU Support Group podcast. Today I have with me Michael Gibson. Several of you might know him. He works here in the hospital and he does a presentation called Humor in the Workplace. So he's going to go through that for us. This typically has slides with it. Today we are doing this live. You are only going to hear the audio part, but we do plan on sending out the slides later with the audio attached so that maybe you can listen to it again and get the full effects. But let's start with introducing you. Michael, how are you
All
today?
right, doing great. Thank you for having me. This is exciting. This is the first time that I've done this presentation in this format. I've done humor in healthcare for several years. Probably the largest group that I've spoken to was the Medical College of Georgia Medical Association. There were about 400 people gathered in Augusta, Georgia, and I was scared to death because that's the biggest group I've ever spoken to, but it went really well. And how this whole thing got started, I'm not a comedian. I like to think I have kind of a weird sense of humor, but we were doing a class roster for our oncology rehab program. And they were looking at topics, and one of the hot topics for oncology rehab was humor. So I developed this humor and hope talk back in '94. So it started probably before a lot of, you didn't have to say it like that, Catherine.
I'm just saying, that's a good,
It's probably before Catherine was born.
No, I wasn't alive.
So anyway, it's been a long time. And you guys, once you see the video of this, you will definitely note my gray hair. So anyway, so yeah, it started off, just me teaching to, a group of 6 oncology rehab folks, and it's just grown and grown and grown. And people have heard about my talks, and they will ask me to speak to church groups, civic organizations. Last year I spoke to, there's a human resources group in Westminster, South Carolina, up in that area, Seneca, Clemson area. And a bunch of bankers were in there, which was a tough audience, so to speak. And it went really well, though. So that's kind of how it started, and I love doing it. It's has turned into one of my favorite things to talk about as far as patient education, teammate education, so I really like it. So.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
awesome.
it's
We're
great.
excited to have you today. So whenever you're ready.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and launch into this. So, I said I was not a comedian, but because this is a humor in the workplace talk, I feel like I have to start out with a joke. So please do not hold me to my delivery. Like I said, I'm not a professional stand-up comedian, but this is called The Visiting Pastor. A pastor went out one Saturday to visit his church members. At one house, it was obvious that someone was home, but nobody came to the door, even though the preacher knocked several times. Finally, the preacher took out his business card and wrote Revelation 3:20 on the back of it and stuck it in the door. Revelation 3:20 says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and dine with him and he with me." Revelation 3:20. Well, the next day was Sunday. The pastor's business card showed up in the offering plate. And right under where he had written Revelation 3:20 was written Genesis 3:10. So he couldn't quite remember what Genesis 3:10 was, so he flipped back in his Bible and started dying laughing because Genesis 3:10 says, "I heard your voice in the garden and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself." so be careful when you're out in the garden and the preacher's coming by. All right, so here's what we're going to do today. Objectives, we're going to define humor. Peter Benchley has a great quote. He says, "Defining and analyzing humor is a pastime of humorless people." I love that quote. In other words, if you got to tell people what humor is, you're probably a pretty boring person. People know what humor is. But we are going to define it in ways that I think will make you appreciate it even more. We're going to look at historical perspectives of humor in your health. In other words, how did this get started? How did we figure out that humor can have a positive impact on your health? So we'll delve into that a little bit. We're going to talk about the benefits of humor, not only physically but mentally. And then we're going to talk about why humor in the healthcare setting, which is the reason for me being on this podcast today, this YouTube channel is, why are we talking about humor? Why is it important now? And it is important now more than ever. And then we're going to look at techniques to build more humor into the healthcare setting. You know, healthcare, we can be pretty stuffy at times. So this is just going to, point us in the direction that, hey, even though we have a very serious role within this organization, we can bring a little humor to work with us, and that's what it's all about. All right, so let's jump in. Define humor. Victor Borgia, I don't really know how to pronounce his name. He's a classically trained pianist, and he defines humor as the shortest distance between two people. That is my favorite definition. Because if you've ever been, and all of us nurses have, if you've ever been in a tense situation caring for a patient, a tense situation, speaking to family members, and somebody says something funny or something funny happens, and everybody joins in and laughs, it just relaxes everybody, even if only for a few seconds. That's why I love that. Is it does create that bond. Even if you're having a disagreement with somebody and something funny happens, you misspeak or whatever, it just relaxes all the parties involved, and humor has the ability to do that. And then this other definition is humor is the capacity to perceive, appreciate, or express what is funny or amusing. Nowhere in that definition does it say that you have to be the class clown, you have to be the best stand-up comedian and funniest person in the world. You just have to appreciate humor. You have to seek it out, and that is a great definition of humor. And the very last definition, I love this as well. It says, laughter is the bond in human connection. Everyone laughs in the same language. I love that. No matter where you go in the world, people laugh. A smile, a laugh is a universal symbol that somebody is happy, somebody is welcoming you and giving you a warm greeting. So those are some of the definitions. So, all right, so how did this come about? What are the historical perspectives of humor in your health? The benefits date back to biblical times. I love this quote. After God created the world, He made man and woman. Then to keep the whole thing from falling apart, He invented humor. So He knew we would screw everything up. So he said, I better throw in a little humor. Proverbs 17:22, a cheerful heart is good medicine. Proverbs 15:13, a happy heart makes the face cheerful, but heartache crushes the spirit. But not everything in life is funny. I don't have to tell you nurses on the front lines this. It's been a terrible year. You guys have faced unbelievable stress. There are times when humor is not appropriate. Ecclesiastes 3:4 says there's a time to weep and a time to laugh. So humor is just one tool in your toolbox that can help with coping with life and coping with stress that you will see on the job. It's not a be-all, end-all. You can't use it in all situations, and we'll talk more about that here. So there's a great quote by Mark Twain. He says, humor is the great thing, the saving thing. The minute it crops up, all of our irritations and resentments slip away. Maybe not all, but it certainly can help us forget our troubles for a brief period. All right. Humor and health really got started in 1964. There was a guy by the name of Norman Cousins. He owned and was a writer for the Saturday Review. He developed this connective tissue disorder, and his doctors did not give him a good prognosis. In fact, back then they said, we can treat your symptoms, but we have no way of keeping your immune system from fighting you to death. So he didn't like that prognosis, as I wouldn't either. So he decided to embark on this research study. He called it his exercise of affirmative emotions. What that means is exercise of positive emotions, trying to keep a positive thought process most of the time. So he checked himself into a hotel. He surrounded himself with any and all things positive books, positive TV shows. And lo and behold, he started feeling better. So as this research went on, he found that after he had a good hearty laugh, he was able to take less pain medicine, which we'll talk about here in a second. And he was eventually cured. And, science has no other way to explain it than his positive attitude was a contributing factor to his cure. So if you look up anything about humor in health, humor in medicine, his name rises very quickly to the top of the Google list. So He's kind of the pioneer of this whole movement. He has several great quotes out there. Laughter is an antidote to apprehension and panic. And he was the first one to say that laughter was internal jogging. He wrote a book called Anatomy of an Illness. It's a very thin book. You can get it at the library. You can get it on Amazon if you want to read it. I would not take it to the beach with me to read. It's pretty boring. But if you want to find out what he was doing, what he was thinking during this whole research project, you certainly can get this book called Anatomy of an Illness. He says hearty laughter is a good way to jog internally without having to go outdoors. Now, I would recommend you go outdoors as well, but what the science has shown is that a good hearty laugh is the equivalent to about 15 minutes on a piece of cardiovascular exercise equipment from a physiological standpoint. In other words, the same things that happen when you exercise, when you have a good laugh, I'm not talking just a little chuckle, but when you have a good laugh, your body responds in the same physiological way. He has another quote, and it says, "Death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies inside us while we live." In other words, live life to the fullest, and he certainly did that. He lived about 20 more years after he was cured from this connective tissue disorder, and he ended up dying from congestive heart failure. Another doctor came along after him. Some of you may have seen the movie. Robin Williams starred as Dr. Patch Adams. It's a real-life physician who is still practicing to this day. The movie came out in 1998, and he based a lot of his work on Norman Cousins' work. He kind of took the ball and ran with it, so to speak. So because of him, because of Patch Adams and his work, if you remember from the movie, if you haven't seen the movie, I would recommend you watch it because it does cover a lot of what I'm going through today and how he used humor to help kids with terminal diagnoses accept their diagnoses, and just helping with the family and his coworkers. So it is a great, very timely movie to watch right now. It's kind of sad because we don't have Robin Williams with us anymore, but it is a very timely movie, I think, to watch at this point. But because of Patch Adams and Norman Cousins' work, we're starting to see a lot of alternative therapies actually being incorporated into medical schools now. We've got massage therapy being taught. Humor, of course, is one of those. Yoga. There's a thing called laughter yoga that is going around. It started in India, where you have an instructor in front of the class, just like a regular exercise yoga class, and he just starts laughing. And it's so weird. You can watch the videos on YouTube. They just have these people that just are laughing, and it's funny because you can't help but laugh with them. So if you remember what I told you about laughter giving you the same benefits of exercise a minute ago, then you can see why a laughter yoga class would be beneficial to your health, relaxation, and all that good stuff. Patch Adams has a great quote. It says, "People crave laughter as if it were an essential amino acid." Now, I'm showing a picture on the one of the slides right now of Robin Williams portraying Patch Adams, but then I have a pic of the real Patch Adams. So once you go to this YouTube channel, you can see the slides and see the real Patch Adams. And he looks nothing like Robin Williams. He's got a big handlebar mustache, but he's doing a lot of work now with medical missions and taking care of terminally ill children and doing things like that right now. This is one of my favorite quotes, and I think every nurse, every healthcare person should pin this on their locker. You treat a disease, you win, you lose. You treat a person, I guarantee you will win no matter what the outcome. So if you focus on the disease process, you may win some, you may lose some. You focus on the patient, you'll win every time. So I love that. All right, let's talk about some of the physical benefits of humor. Again, if you think about what I said earlier about being related to exercise, humor and exercise, close cousins right there. So a lot of these same benefits you get with exercise. Stronger immune system, improved cardiovascular health. Remember I said that Norman Cousins said that laughter was internal jogging. Reduced stress hormones, Cortisol is a culprit in a lot of our disease processes. It promotes inflammation. So laughter helps to reduce cortisol levels, they have shown. Reduce pain. Why would laughter help to reduce pain? The body releases what when you laugh and when you exercise? Endorphins, the body's natural mood elevator and painkiller. So that's how Norman Cousins was to come off some of his pain medicines. Now, are you going to be able to laugh your way through a kidney stone? Probably not. I've never had one, but I've taken care of many a patient with a kidney stone, and they were not laughing. And if I had told them that you can either have this morphine or you can have laughter, what are you going to choose? They would have chosen the morphine every time. But for mild, headaches, neck pain, try watching a Seinfeld episode or something. Big Bang Theory. Laughter also has a muscle relaxant effect. They say that the effects of laughter on muscle relaxation last about 45 minutes. Now with exercise, it's about 2 hours, they say. So not quite as good muscle relaxant effect, but pretty dang good for something very simple to do. So laughter is like yawning. Like I said, those people that do laughter yoga, you can't watch somebody laugh and not laugh with them. So, all right, some of the mental health benefits of laughter, these go without saying. Less stress, reduced anxiety, anger, more positive, optimistic mood. Again, at the end of the day, laughter is just one tool in your toolbox that you can use to help get through a stressful day, a stressful shift, a stressful hour. So definitely don't discount it. Don't forget this lecture, and hopefully you can add some humor to your workplace. All right, so why humor in the healthcare setting? I have a long list up here. You guys will see it when you see my slides. But I really don't have to tell you why humor in the healthcare setting. You guys have went through probably one of the most stressful times in your career. I don't know how old you guys are or how far along you are in your career, but if you're just starting out, this still may be your most stressful time that you have the rest of your career. Stress at work, absolutely. Patient loads, exposure to traumatic events, shift work. By nature, working different shifts adds stress. So, we want to reduce that, and healthcare, humor in healthcare can certainly do that. Documentation systems and, all the legal requirements that come, Epic. You think about all of our change to Epic back in 2017. Huge stressor. Still is a stressor. Every time somebody tells me to submit a ticket, I cringe. My eyes twitch. Lateral violence, that's another thing that nurses unfortunately can experience and people in healthcare can experience. So that's another reason we need humor in healthcare. Code lavender, there's, you guys may have heard of this. There's, institutions around that can call a code lavender. And we were going to start that here. I don't know if it ever got off the ground.
I've just heard here and there. I hear someone say it. I don't ever really know the background of it.
Code Lavender started at Johns Hopkins, and it's to treat staff that are going through a traumatic experience. Let's say there's a huge car wreck, and several people are injured or even killed in the ED, and the ER staff's taking care of them. Then the hospital would call what's called a code lavender, and they would have this team of chaplains, counselors that would go to this unit, talk to people, try to work through their stress. That they bring some food. They also bring actual lavender, because lavender is a calming scent. So they do some aromatherapy and things like that. So we had talked about starting it here. I don't know if it got shelved because of COVID, but you may hear more about Code Lavender, because I think our pastoral staff is going to be starting that.
We do have them. They've been very supportive.
Okay, great.
The Heart of Lavender.
Oh, perfect.
Actually.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So you guys have had lavender carts. Man, that's awesome. Another thing, and you guys can relate to this, another reason why we need to incorporate some kind of humor or stress busting principles in healthcare is that they're asking us to do more with less. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. You guys have been doing that. You have been doing a lot more with a lot less staff and help, and so it doesn't go unnoticed, but it doesn't help that you're not getting the extra staff right away when you feel like you need it. So that's where humor and hopefully some stress relieving techniques can help out. So there's a thing. There's this. A couple years ago, we went through these ICD-10 codes. Okay, so the changes happened, 2 or 3 years ago. We went from ICD-9 coding to ICD-10 codes. Huge change, very big stressor in healthcare. But I'm just going to go through a couple of the actual ICD-9 codes. This one is, and these are real now, I did not make these up, V97.33XD, sucked into jet engine, subsequent encounter. In other words, it happened once, but then this poor person survived and got sucked into jet engine again. I swear, y'all can fact check this with me. It's V97.33XD, okay? So somebody's luck ran out. All right. W55.41XA, bitten by pig, initial encounter. So somebody's got bitten by a pig, their first encounter, that's the code you would use. And then this is my favorite, W61.62XD, struck by duck, subsequent encounter. So that's another one of those that happened to the poor person twice. So those are the kind of weird things in healthcare that add stress and make no sense. So the benefits of laughter in the healthcare setting. We talked about why you would need it. So what are some of the benefits? Laughter in the healthcare setting helps you to cope and distance yourself from stressful situations, even if only for a lunch break or a few minutes. Helps you connect with other healthcare professionals and gain support. Reduces tension. That's kind of a no-brainer. It's humanizing. When you can laugh at yourself in a stressful situation, it makes us all human. A lot of times healthcare workers have this, complex that, we're supermen and superwomen. But, at the end of the day, we're human. So, we grieve, we cry, we're under stress, and laughter can help combat that. Laughter helps build trust, boost morale, and probably one of the final ones I have here, laughter helps with recruitment and retention. If you have a stuffy group, that never laughs, just doesn't have a little bit of fun, you're probably not going to hang on to people. So try that. Try laughter and see if it doesn't help with your recruitment and retention. I love this quote by Dr. William Fry. Humor is contagious, laughter is infectious, and both are good for your health. Humor can also help you get through some pretty tough stuff in life. There's a great quote by Abraham Lincoln at the start of the Civil War. He said, "Gentlemen, why don't you laugh? With the fearful strain that is upon me day and night, if I did not laugh, I should die, and you need this medicine as much as I do." Abraham Lincoln, as far as I can find out, was one of the first people to call laughter medicine. And if you remember, Reader's Digest has a section called Laughter, the Best Medicine. But as far as I can tell, Abraham Lincoln was the first person that actually used that in a quote. So there's also a quote by Viktor Frankl. He was in the concentration camps, and definitely not a place that was probably filled with a lot of humor. But he said, "Humor more than anything else in the human makeup affords an aloofness, an ability to rise above any situation, even if only for a few seconds." So remember that. You nurses, CMAs, whoever's on the line, remember that humor can help you even if only for a few seconds. Yeah, you have a stressful day ahead of you, stressful procedure, stressful, whatever coming up. Use humor even if it's only for a few seconds to help you deal with things. There's a great movie. It's called Life is Beautiful. I would recommend everybody watch it. I normally at this time show a film clip, but because we're doing this, talk a little different today, I would encourage you to go out to Netflix or Amazon Prime. You can definitely rent it on there. It's a foreign film, came out in the late 80s, but it's about this well-to-do family. They're doing fine. It's during World War II. The war breaks out. They get sent to a concentration camp. I know you guys are saying, what's funny about that? That's not where the humor comes in. The humor comes in because the father and the son are sent to a separate concentration camp, and the mother's in another barracks, and the son, he's probably 6 maybe, and he misses his mom. He's scared, he's hungry. So the whole movie is about how the father uses humor to protect his son. So I can't tell you how it ends, but you'll laugh, you'll cry, and you'll laugh some more. So I would encourage you to look that up. Life is Beautiful. All right, so we talked about humor. We talked about how good it is for you, why it's important in a healthcare setting. So now let's talk about ways that you can incorporate humor into your daily work life. And a lot of this is going to be manager driven because I know the pressure's on, because and I'm gonna put her under the gun here in that she has to create the culture. Okay, so it has to come from the top. One cool thing is that we have a new president at AnMed Health, and we have been doing Safety Huddle for years now. It's a very stuffy affair. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that. Very serious, very stuffy. Yes, if you haven't listened to it, consider yourself lucky. But when we got our new CEO, he started doing something a little different as of late. Like he will play music, just very upbeat music before, it's not before everyone, but like he did it this morning. He also said a prayer one Friday morning. So I think he gets it. I think he gets that, not everything needs to be about healthcare and the seriousness of life. So, there are times that we can relax. So I think if he can do it, we can do it. So a lot of people feel like, I can't incorporate healthcare or humor into my daily job because I don't have a sense of humor. And I don't buy that. I think everyone has a sense of humor. Now, it may need to be taken off the shelf and dusted off and put back into play, but I do think everybody has a sense of humor. It just, you have to practice it. It's a skill, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. So, number 2, the manager needs to create the culture. If not the manager, it's the charge nurse. When your manager's not there, or if she's in meetings, which I know she goes to a lot of meetings, or did before COVID, definitely. Don't wait on her. As your charge nurse or you nurses, you guys can create the culture, okay? Now, hopefully she supports it, but there has to be boundaries, there has to be a lot of boundaries. But I know she'll do a great job keeping y'all within the boundaries. Designate a space for humor, okay? Do you guys have a locker room? Okay, so if you have a locker room or break room is a great place for humor. I would recommend, cutting out jokes or printing them off. Google a joke a day or whatever. Post them on your lockers. You don't want that kind of stuff out at the nurses station where family or, God forbid, inspector from DHEC or what is our new CMS? What is our new? DMV, yes, DMV, if they come walking up. So designate a space where, where people go. Bathroom, put stuff on the bathroom door. People sitting there, they have time. they can read some comic strips on the door. So definitely designate a space. Use a joke a day calendar. One of my favorites is The Far Side, and I have several slides about the Far Side comic strips. They're not going to translate for me telling you. You have to see them. So I would encourage you again to go back and look at the slides. Telling a joke. Telling a joke is a great way to spread humor. Doesn't take a lot of time. A lot of people say, man, but I forget the punchline, or I can't remember jokes. It's okay to write them down. The first 2 jokes that I told y'all were printed off. So it's okay. If it's a funny enough joke, man, write it down and share it with the group. There's a guy named Garrison Keillor. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He had a show called Prairie Home Companion. It's kind of like a comedy show on NPR radio. But he says, telling jokes are democratic. Telling one right has nothing to do with having money or being educated. It's a knack like hammering a nail straight. Anyone can learn it, and it's useful in all sorts of situations. You can go your whole life and not need math or physics, but the ability to tell a joke is always handy. I love that. I've never forgot that. So, yeah, just practice telling of jokes. Try them out in front of your friends and family. I used to, let me rephrase, try them out in front of your honest friends and family. Because I used to tell a joke, and I told it probably the first, 10 years that I taught this class, and nobody ever told me that, Michael, you might want to retire that joke. It's not the best joke in the world. I still love it. So now I tell it for educational purposes. So I'm going to tell you guys this joke, and you'll stare at me like 1,000 other classes. So, you ready? It's a good Halloween joke. This skeleton goes into a bar. Okay? The skeleton goes into a bar. He goes up to the bartender, and he says, I'll have a beer and a mop. Y'all got it? Beer and a mop? He doesn't have a stomach. He's a skeleton, so he's going to drink the beer and then mop it up. See, nobody loves that. I love that joke. So, again, try your jokes out on your honest friends and family first. And write down your jokes in case of emergency. If you find a good one, write it down. But anyway. All right, other ways. I'm going to finish strong, y'all. I promise. I do have a great closing joke here in a minute. So, first of all, figure out what makes you laugh. You have to find out what makes you laugh, okay? It's different for everybody. Some people like, stand-up comedians. Dave Chappelle, love him. Some people hate him. Some people like Big Bang Theory. Some people don't. So, humor is one of those very individualistic things. So you have to find out what makes you laugh. Incorporate humor into your staff meetings. Start off, with a joke. Depending on what you're talking about that day. Now, if you're going to have layoffs announced, don't start off with a joke. Don't tell people a joke and then you lay off 4 staff members. So you have to know timing is everything. So, if it's a routine staff meeting, yes, incorporate humor into your staff meetings. Add comedy to your commute. Everybody has, USB ports and auxiliary things that they can hook up in their cars, and you can listen to something funny on the drive in. Laughter yoga, we talked about that. It's a group of people getting together. They have an instructor. All they do is bust out laughing. So another thing is find humor in seemingly ordinary everyday things. Church signs and bumper stickers are great. Start paying attention to the church signs, and I'm going through several right now. This one's, it's a lot more funny when you see it on the screen, but Lent is coming. Get your ash in church. Now I said ash with an H. So our church is like fudge, sweet with a few nuts. Isn't that life? And then it's a church sign, and it shows green grass. But the sign actually says, God's love is deeper than this snow. So apparently they left this sign up a little too long. So, and then there's one that says, it's got a temperature sign on the church. It says 96 degrees. It says Satan called. He wants his weather back. So bumper stickers. There's one that says, sorry for driving so close in front of you. I love that. And then, what if the hokey pokey is what it's all about? Again, that's on a bumper sticker. And this is my favorite bumper sticker. It says vegetarian, an old Indian word for lousy hunter. If you're a lousy hunter, you're going to be a vegetarian. So I love that. Remember a funny moment. use your mind and your memory to conjure up a happy or funny thing that happened. One of my favorite quotes is, God gave us memory so that we could have roses in December. So when you're going through the winters of your life, the tough times in your life, use your memory to conjure up a happy time or a funny time or something funny that happened, and your body will respond accordingly. All those benefits that we talked about with humor, your body will respond in that way. Act silly. It's okay. Even though we're all serious adult healthcare professionals, it's okay to act silly. I actually danced and rapped in front of, Stephanie, how many people? 90 people one day. I don't know why. It's just something we had to do, and they picked me, and I did a little, and I think that video is still out there. I was Flava Flav, and it was fun. It's one of those times that I remember that makes me laugh. So spend time with animals. There's a lot of research, y'all, about how just the act of petting an animal can improve your health. Just being around animals. People that own animals or that are around animals, like animals, have better quality of life. They tend to live longer. They tend to have less disease and sickness. Those are scientifically found principles related to being around animals, petting animals. So definitely spend time with animals. Back in 2008, I wrote a children's book called Luli Loves Lima Beans. Everybody always asks me, does she really love lima beans? And she did. And, you know, my wife was cooking lima beans one day. She dropped one on the floor. So my dog looked at it, and I was like, there's no way she's going to eat that. Well, she gobbled it up and started spinning around and going crazy, wanting more lima beans. So we had to give her lima beans anytime. She had to have her own little bowl. But she just made me laugh. So, you know, just being around her prompted this little poem, this little book, and it turned into a book. And we went all over the Southeast promoting this little book. So animals can have a truly positive impact on your life. Now I have 2 cats, George and Little Bit, and I love them to death, and they make me laugh all the time. So, all right, some things to be aware of. When you're using humor, always consider your audience. Intend to make people smile, laugh. Don't ever tell a joke to hurt somebody or make them feel bad about themselves. Enjoy it yourself, and then be able to take it yourself. If you tell a joke, if you're a Clemson fan and you tell a joke on South Carolina and they turn around and tell one on Clemson, you got to be able to take it if you dish it out. So it's all in good fun. Just remember that. So, all right, I'm going to finish. I told you I'd finish strong. This is my closing joke. It's my favorite joke of all time. There's these 2 guys, Rufus and Clarence. They were neighbors, and they lived across the river from each other. There's a river separating their properties. Well, neither one of them could swim, and they didn't like each other. They feuded like Hatfields and McCoys. So all they could do was fuss back and forth across this river. So one day, Rufus's wife came home and said, Rufus, you're in luck. They built a bridge about 1.5 miles down the river. You can finally go settle your differences with Clarence. So he took off running, came back about 10 minutes later, didn't have any marks on him, and he slumped down in a chair. His wife said, Rufus, what's wrong? I thought you were going to whip Clarence. He says, honey, I was. The darndest thing. I got to the foot of that bridge, and there was a big sign that says, Clarence, 15 feet 5 inches. I swear he didn't look that big across the river. It was clearance, not Clarence. So you have to be careful with our good old Southern pronunciation. So I want to thank you guys for having me. I've enjoyed it, even though it's been a little weird not being able to see your faces. But I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you get to see the slides. And if you have any questions, you certainly can reach out to me on email, michael.gibson@anmedhealth.org. Call me over at Life Choice, and I'll be glad to elaborate on anything I said today. But Catherine, just thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yes, we appreciate you doing
Thank
this
you.
for us. Okay, everyone, that's the end of today's podcast. I just want to remind you that next week we have another one at 3 p.m. featuring Dr. Dale Hollander. He is the EAP position to help with counseling. So I hope to hear from you all then. Bye.